truly the only person that will be there for you is you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing. That's
for sure.
That's a beautiful thing. To be there for yourself, like to be your own superhero is the biggest power. It's the greatest power that you have.
You're now listening to the Let's Talk About Life podcast, brought to you by Don't Settle, with your host, Harrison King. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Talk About Life podcast. My name is Harrison King, and I have a very special friend here. Naina Singh is a good friend of mine, and we have some really great conversations. We've had a lot over the past however long we've known each other.
That's true, yeah.
And I thought we could hop on here and just have a talk. Naina, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Naina, but you can call me Nine. Yeah, I'm a music student at Humber. Just super fun.
Vocal student. She sings. She's amazing. Also,
Oh,
we've had a lot of good
you.
singers on here.
Alex Raymond, very exciting.
Alex Raymond, wonderful singer.
The best.
Yeah, so we what's a little, I guess, background so people kind of know about you and kind of like your I don't know. Yeah, what kind of stuff are you interested in? Like things I guess we've talked about, and then we can get into something.
Ooh, what am I interested in? I love deep conversations. Like,
yeah.
Even if we have met in like within a minute of meeting you, I'm trying to get to know you, because that like deep conversations are very important to me. I think
sure.
they're just important to have.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's what makes life interesting.
that's true.
I think the topic we were just saying, I think the topic that I had mentioned was, would you say compassion and empathy or something like that? Which is something we've talked about before. But the reason I had originally said that is because you are somebody, when I think of those two words, you're the first person that comes to mind. So I thought we could, I don't know, see what happens with that. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I mention that stuff?
I was thinking about it last night. That as of right now, like as a whole, we're very compassionate people, but we're not as empathetic.
I guess that's the first place to start, is to find the divide between those two. Because I've personally always struggled with, there's empathy and sympathy, right? Mm-hmm. And I sometimes still find myself having to like look up which one's which. Because empathy is like feeling the same. Is it the feeling the same thing?
Yeah.
Right? And then sympathy is like attempting to feel what you're feeling. Correct? Is that right or not? You tell me, because you probably know and I don't. So let's start there.
Well, empathy is being able to understand someone on that emotional level.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like when you feel sympathy for somebody, you're not taking on what they're feeling, but it's more so almost like a condolence.
Right. It's like acknowledging it.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, I know there's a difference, and I know what empathy is, but like when I try to compare them, I'm lost.
It's confusing. I did a Google search before this too. I was like, gotta remind myself.
She did her research. No, so that's you were saying compassion versus. You said what'd you say again? One more time. People are compassionate. Yes,
but not empathetic.
Not empathetic.
Or less empathetic than they are compassionate.
And why do you say that?
I mean, just looking at the way that things are working right now.
You're talking about like pandemic, in the pandemic era, right? Like
big time.
COVID times.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's a terrifying time.
Yeah.
But like, you hear somebody has COVID and you're compassionate towards them, and it's like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. But the lack of empathy of like, you hear about, okay, the States, for example, on the drive home, you hear about like 200,000 deaths.
Right.
And it's only been a few months.
Yeah.
And that number has almost made us go numb.
Yeah, but we're like desensitized to stuff. I was talking to somebody about this recently. Same thing. It's like, I mean, that's a lot of people. Like that's a ridiculous amount of people. But because the numbers keep going up, it's like we almost don't care as a society, which I think can be understood. Like I think you can understand why, because it's why you get desensitized to things, but it's still challenging. So why do you specifically say we're not empathetic? Is it those numbers like that being desensitized to it, or just us in general?
It is a big desensitization. Like, and it's not even just numbers. It's like social media. You'll see something super jarring, even horror movies,
Right.
like Hereditary or Midsummer. Like the level of intense. Like if you were to premiere something like Hereditary in the early 2000s, like
Yeah.
it would not go over well at
Right.
all. That's not something that people are even remotely ready for.
Yeah.
But like here we are in 2020,
What do you
and
think's caused that?
oh, it's exposure. I think it's just the gradual exposure to like,
It's just around
yeah,
in media and life and the news and stuff. I think you're probably right.
it's easily accessible. I mean, like look at games that kids play now.
So I was
Like,
gonna say games, right?
yeah,
Which is interesting because I have like not looked into this. I've seen stuff on it before. I have in no way an expert or know if any of this is true. But I believe I saw something. It was like that there's really not much of a change on average between people that play. And I don't know. This sounds inaccurate now that I'm saying it, but I believe it was like kids that were playing like violent games like Grand Theft Auto or whatever, they weren't really that much more likely to do those things in real life. And I don't know if that's true again, so don't no don't quote me on it.
this.
But I don't know if that's the case. And if it is the case though, let's be hypothetical. If it is the case, it maybe oh, that doesn't make sense. I was gonna say it's like we're just kind of like that's desensitized to it like so much that like it doesn't affect us, like we're seeing it, whatever. But then that wouldn't that make us fine with doing it in real life?
I guess in a weird way, no. I feel like we'd be more likely to see it happen and then pull out our phones to record it versus like calling authorities and being like, "Hey, this dude
Yeah.
just died."
Well, that's another thing. The phone situation. It's like this is the first thing that I think of when you say something like that. I would never witnessed any like fist fights or anything in high school, but I know it's like a thing that happens, right?
Yep.
So I had talked to my dad and said people used to fight all the time, but it was like there was a mutual respect. Like at some point, the other guy just tapped out, the other person just tapped out, and they were like, "That's it," and then they were both like, "That's it, we're done," whatever. But it's like now people just like pull out their phones or recording it, and people are like, maybe it is the desensitization, but like again, this is on average based on things I've seen on the internet also, but people just they just go crazy. Like they won't stop when somebody's like down and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe it has caused a challenge for us to like, I don't know. I don't know what that is, but it's quite, there's been a change. There's been something. I don't
Something shifted and I don't know how to feel about it really.
I know. Well, is it good or bad? I don't know. It just is, but it's not maybe the best way things could be going.
It's definitely like, I mean, I'm thankful for the fact that we have a chance to speak and feel, but
Yes.
it's almost like we have so much energy to do it, and we know that we can. It's like, well, if I'm getting into a fist fight, I can just keep going. Like, that's okay because
Are you saying like freedom wise?
yeah,
Almost like we have
almost.
too much freedom?
No, but that's a thing. Like, do we?
You know what I mean? Like that's a harsh thing to say,
It
but it's interesting to
is.
think about too much freedom. What is that? And do we
'Cause-
have it? Do we not have it? Do we need more? If there was more, would it cause more problems? Listen, I don't have the answers.
That's like another ramble. It's like, are we free people? Well, no. I mean, we're not free. Like
Free in what sense, though? Listen, we have to clarify that. We gotta be on the same page.
We're not free in the sense. Well, here, okay. The things that we do daily, like we need to find a way to make money in order to keep the things that we have.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay.
We have.
There's like
I'm almost
societal guidelines to follow. Like you can't just
Yeah.
do whatever you want. You have to, in order to survive at some point, like follow
Exactly.
things. More than just like, I need to eat and sleep and be warm or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
there are other okay, that makes sense though. But
this started off as like, we're empathetic, but we're not. And are we free?
we're into it. So like, right into it. I love it.
But I mean, like, but honestly, I mean, if you don't tick off certain boxes in the world that we live in, you're just not going to make it, which is a terrifying thought.
I know.
And it's weird to think that our reality and the things that are going to shape us lie in the hands of, are you capable of paying a phone bill, or like your credit card bills,
Yeah.
or like, are you gonna pass a test that'll ultimately decide whether or not you go to college or university or graduate,
So you can pay your phone bill.
so you can pay your phone bill. Exactly. Like there's in that sense, it feels like we're not free. It feels like we think we have freedom because
I've never
once we
thought about it
complete
that
these
way.
things- Yeah, like
If you think about it that way, no, 100% we're not free, right? Like we can't just do, quote unquote, do what you want, right? Like if you want to. Now there is you kind of have to play the system though if you want to do that. If you want to do what you want, you have to follow it to a certain extent, and then you can have enough freedom to be free. Do you know what I'm saying?
so jazz. You have
Right.
to you have to follow the rules and then break them.
Basically, but I mean it's true. You can, but just to like I said, do what you want,
Yep.
you can't because you're gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what it comes down to in the society, which is messed up. But that's, I mean, then here's something. Then, if we were to compare, because we're talking about like modern society, right? If we compare that to like a long time ago and like indigenous people who were not living in a modern society that we are, did they then have a sense of freedom, or did they? Because they still had obligations. This is just something interesting to think about, right? Because they still had obligations and they needed. So like maybe our things are just different because those are more survival at that stage. Like I'm talking a really long time ago, right? Like it was mostly survival. Where am I getting my food from? Where am I sleeping? So they could do what they wanted, but they couldn't just do what they wanted because they needed to survive. But now we have all those things met. But then I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do. It's almost like there's a difference between the survival mode and being able to create your own rules versus like a democracy and capitalism.
Right.
And
Yep.
yeah, like when the earth was created and people were just starting to exist and kind of figure out their abilities and what they were capable of. It was less of, yes, we're free, but we have so much freedom, we kind of need to figure out what to do,
Right.
and kind of how to make it so that we can be free for a little longer than
Yeah.
like a few years.
Yes. Right.
Versus like now where it's, okay, this is what you have to do. This is what you're told you have to do, and then just follow it, and you can maybe play the lottery every once in a while, but like what are your chances of winning that,
Right. The structures that we have in place in certain, every country, society is different.
Yeah.
The structures we have in place, say capitalism, as you said, is there ever do you think there'd ever be a way that we could reverse that? Like, are we way too far gone to fix it? Because I think at some point, like sometimes I think about it and I'm like, we are. Like, how are you gonna unbuild this? Like, you can't start from the beginning because there's so many things that people need and things that have to be met. So it's like a gradual change, but it's like, can we ever get out of that? I don't know. I would hope so, but
I mean, you bring up a good point. It's at this point, like, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Yeah.
And the middleman is like struggling to make ends meet. And so I feel like in order for capitalism to fall to its knees, it might happen, but it just might happen because things are so bad it just needs to, like, there's just going to be a revolution.
Right. What would replace it though? We're asking the big questions here.
I don't. This isn't compassion or empathy, but we'll get back there.
We'll get there at some point.
Exactly.
Just taking a little detour.
Yeah, it's a cute little detour. Won't keep you up at night. It's totally cool. Um, I I feel like it's not going to be replaced. It'll still be capitalism, but we're just going to start from the ground up.
Do you think at some point it's just innate within us? Not capitalism, obviously, because it's the term we're using, but like the hierarchy of, I mean, I think in a certain way it is, because, you know, you go back to natural selection, you got to be the best to stay alive, right? In any species.
That's true.
Do you think
but
that
it's almost like
it's different? Yes, it's different, but it's just
Yeah.
like, is it something? Because you're saying we go back to it. Like, why would we revert back to it if we know it's bad? Just because that's how it's always been?
to find a new system for 7 billion people
Mm-hmm.
is absolute chaos. And it's less of like a cream of the crop kind of get what they get, because we're seeing now there are horrible people in power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they're the cream of the crop, it's because they have money and it's because they have power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dangerous. Like, money is dangerous because it's not, it gives you access to absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
And within that pile of anything, there's power.
Yeah.
And that's the most dangerous thing that money can buy. But it's also like, well, because we followed this system for years, because we look to that source of power, to kind of start new and say, well, this is how things are going to be. Like, it might be difficult. It might be so difficult we can't comprehend it. And I think that's that's a terrifying thought.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It's so
Nice.
good.
That's good.
Yeah, it
No.
was so good.
But what you're saying is kind of what I was saying, like the power thing. I think at any stage, like we would end up back at this maybe anyway, because people just want to be in charge or have power, which is crazy.
Big time.
I think, and maybe this is a big statement, but I think our generation, me and you, what are we? Gen Z? Z?
Something.
X.
I don't really know.
I think
It's
we're
like
Zed.
a weird Zillennial Gen Z
Give me
era.
one sec. I'm curious what we are. Gen Z, I believe, is specifically what we would be. Yeah. Mid to late 1990s and early 2010s.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's us. Anyway, that wasn't relevant, but it was relevant. Now we know.
I forget that people are still being born. You know, like I see babies all around.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
You said people born in 2010, and I said, wait, hold on.
Wait, there's not people born. They stopped.
Just stop.
2000 came around and that was it. That was
That's
it.
it.
No more babies, they
Oh,
said.
God. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's been a year.
It has been a year. It's been such a year that Naina forgot people can still have children.
Yeah. Imagine being born in 2020. Like, that's...
Yeah. Imagine being born in 2020. At least you'd have missed all of this. That'd be the one thing. But then you're not really, I don't think you're going into a good section of life is the problem. So I really wish you the best.
It's like
whoever it is.
Born in a pandemic. The world is falling apart. Australia is, or California. One of them's just always on fire.
They're all on fire.
Everything's on fire.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
It's good.
It's okay.
Doing well.
We are.
I was going to say something and I completely lost my train of thought because she said, I forgot babies were being born. That's funny.
I'm so sorry.
Well, speaking of babies, do you think, this is just a bunch of theoretical questions that I keep coming up within my mind. We are going to run out of space, like for land and stuff, but like, because we're exponentially growing,
That's true.
I think at some point there will literally just not be enough space for the amount of people on this planet. I mean, it's a big planet, though. So.
It is a big planet. I don't think... I mean, that's to say that... Well...
Because I'm not talking about resources. Obviously, that's a whole different scenario. But physical space, like land.
It's a terrifying thought. I mean, things are getting smaller. So I feel like in a weird way, we might all just live in tiny homes.
Not even. Like, have you seen those things in... I don't know if it was... I believe it was Japan. They are... I think they have them in several different countries, but they're little like cubicles that people like sleep in.
Like
They're like
bunk
hotel.
beds?
There's like hotels. So there's like I think there's two things. They can be houses, I believe. I don't know. Again, I don't know 100%. But there is I know for sure a hotel you go in and it's literally just like a bunk, and it's just like a box. Like they would have like 100 down one little tiny alley or something, and you just hop in this little thing, and like that's your bed. Like that's your room. Is just a bed in a little box, and you close the door, and then that's it. I hope we
I
don't end up all living in little boxes.
That's just like a giant human mailbox, and I don't know how I feel about that.
That's what it was, though. I'll have to send it to you after.
Please, that
Look it
sounds
up.
terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's scary. Anyway, how do we get here? I don't know. Compassion. Right.
Compassion, empathy.
Right. Right. 100%. Oh, well, we were talking about capitalism.
Yeah, that's the other C word. Yeah.
That's the other C word. Capitalism and compassion. They go hand in hand. And you're saying like it's everywhere, but is it ever? I don't know this. I don't know if you know this. Like, are there societies, even like small, like that aren't operating in that fashion? I guess societies, yes, but like countries, no. Do we know
I
that?
don't know. I feel like everyone in some weird way thrives off of capitalism.
Yes, that's the way the world works, right?
Yeah.
To
So
some
I
extent.
don't know. I feel like to some degree there might be places where capitalism isn't the end all be all,
Yes,
but it seems like that's the way it is for most of the world.
most places.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, that was nice. Our little detour.
So
Let's
good. So good. Like 700 bars of
Oh my God.
capitalism.
You say 700 bars?
Yeah.
Oh, for anybody that doesn't understand, she's recording in Logic, the program, and it's not in time, like it's in number of bars. So, how
Well,
many beats a minute?
Um. Oh, I don't know. Well, okay. Here's what it says. So the tempo is 120.
There you go. So 120.
There we
We're
go.
talking
120
700
beats.
bars at 120 about capitalism.
4/4 time
New
in
song.
C major. Yeah.
New song. If anybody
That's good.
want to write anything about that, you can feel free to take this. Anyway, compassion. I really liked what you said originally. We got way off of it about compassion and empathy being very different, and that one we are doing and one we're not.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that somehow.
Okay. Like, well, okay. I think empathy stems from an inner source. And I think that's something that we're lacking very heavily. I mean, think of all the times that you've showed up or you've shown up for someone else, whether it be physically just being in a room with someone or just, answering a phone at God knows what hour in the night.
Yeah.
And being that source of hope for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's kicking in and accessing some level of empathy.
Yeah.
Of being able to say, I'm here for you. And I feel like we're doing that less and less because it's shifted into compassion, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time it's like due to COVID and due to so many things, like we have a hard time showing up for ourselves.
Mm.
And that,
Yes.
that is the lack of empathy. That is the lack of us going, I can't be there for myself. I can't be there for someone else. I can appreciate them from a distance, but I cannot be there for them anymore.
And that's your distinction between compassion and empathy, is it can be there from them. I want to just look up, if you don't mind, the actual
Yeah, please do. I could be totally wrong.
No. You're right. But I'm curious what the official definition of compassion is according to Google. Sympathetic pity and concern
That's all it says?
and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others.
Yeah.
So it is. It's sympathy, right? Like it's yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is sympathy versus empathy. And we're
Right.
sympathetic in every situation possible.
Right.
But we're not empathetic. And
I
it's
like
yeah.
the way you said that. Sorry, I just cut you off. Continue.
It's all good. It's okay.
That we're not empathetic. We can't be, a lot of us, or it's hard right now to be empathetic for yourself. in turn you can't do it for somebody else, so we have reverted to compassion. And I think you summed that up perfectly. It makes complete sense to me. Why? As for a reason why, we can't and why it's turning that way. But how would we reverse it? Obviously starting with ourselves, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, we have to start with ourselves, but it's so much more than that. Like, you have to sit down and go, something's not right here. Something is very wrong. What is the source of the lack of empathy?
Mm.
What is making you feel so distant? And I think, like, before this we were talking about seeing people and it feeling so surreal, and it's like we're sympathetic, we have pity, like we can't physically be there with somebody, and that's causing us a lot of pain.
Mm.
And we're sympathizing with ourselves, we're not empathetic with ourselves.
How would you make that switch though? Or I don't know if obviously, but like what do you think how do you make
I
that?
think it's a lot of inner work. It's a lot of going, first of all, it's an apology.
To yourself.
It's that, yeah, a big apology to yourself. It's going, okay, I'm sorry that I haven't been there for myself. I'm sorry that I've ignored every sign that told me to slow down. I'm sorry that I've ignored silence, or I've pushed it down because I just didn't want to think about it. And then it's a matter of going, okay, how do I let myself find that emotional release so I can show up and be there for myself. Nobody's sure, you can answer the phone at 3 a.m. but truly the only person that will be there for you is you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing. That's
for sure.
That's a beautiful thing. To be there for yourself, like to be your own superhero, is the biggest power. It's the greatest power that you have. But you can't let that slip away. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at. Like that's just kind of
just as a whole, you're saying. Yeah. It's interesting to me because you would think, like, if you're analyzing this right from an outside perspective, you would think that we would be more focused on ourselves because we're all isolated. Like at some point you would just start focusing on that stuff or realize it or whatever. But it's done the opposite. I don't know why it's done the opposite, but it has. Like, even I talk personally, I guess, before all this happened, I was really working on a lot of personal improvement things, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that a lot of that has kind of gone out the window, but I've had more time to do it by myself. Maybe that part of that comes from we need the other people to keep us go. I have no idea, but it's weird, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, well, I mean, that's another question for you. Why do you think that personal growth and that self-care has kind of been put to a stop?
Me personally, I honestly, I mean, I've thought about this too, right? I really don't have the answer because, for example, working out. I'm talking obviously about myself, but I think this can be applied to anybody. A lot of people relate to it. One of the things with that is like I'm very fortunate. We have a full home gym here, so I don't need to go. I don't need to go anywhere to go to the gym. I have everything I need downstairs. But I used to work out more when I had to go across the street to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if part of that, like some of those things, it's like we were used to actually going somewhere to do something. And then that creates like a sense of like, this is an event. Like this is something happening. I have to schedule it and I have to make sure I get there. But now it's like, I don't have to make sure I get, like I'm here all the time. I'm here 24 hours. Like I can go to the gym, quote unquote, to the gym downstairs whenever I want, but I'm not going to do it because I can do it whenever I want. So you put it off. That's one example, but I mean, that can probably be applied to like a lot of other stuff that we're saying, like, I don't know, like even like people, if they go out to say, I don't know if this is accurate, but like say going to counseling or something, if they wanted to, and now that you're at home, you have to do it. Like you have to be in charge of making it happen. Maybe people are doing it less. I don't know. But like, just, I think it could probably be applied to any aspect of it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
You brought up a really interesting point, and it's that idea of going somewhere and making it an event.
Yeah.
And it's basically like you've given something purpose.
Hmm.
And it's not to say that you don't do that at home. But what it is it's like our egos aren't being fed the way that they used to be.
Hmm.
Like, so at Humber, you were on res. You were surrounded by people that were not your family. You
Right.
were in an area that was not your home.
Hmm.
And it almost like, you almost have a different mentality. I know that whenever I come home, it's like I revert back to my old habits.
Right.
I'll be the hermit that I am. I will,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just kind of sit there with a headphone in, either watching The
Right.
Office or listening to music. Like, I go
Yeah.
back to things that I find comfort in.
Mm.
But if I were to go to a party, or if I had some sort of an event, then the ego kind of pops up and is saying, you need to make yourself look presentable. You need to make it seem like you have things together.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
And because, again, like, because we're home, it's not like, okay, we have to be going to the gym or we have to be doing these things to improve ourselves, because we're not surrounded by people that have either introduced us to new tactics or introduced us to different parts of ourselves that we realized we actually needed to work on.
Hmm.
And it's like maybe our lack of empathy is kicking in because we're just not surrounded by people that make us feel different.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is you're saying like your ego, there might be part of it that is like our personal work, personal growth, whatever, is fueled by other people.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it sounds weird to say, but it is. You're
it
saying your
is.
ego, like it is. If you, yeah. I mean, even like if if you just think you're the best person in the world, or whatever, and then somebody else tells you otherwise, then you might think twice about it. But if nobody says anything, right? Like, so I guess that we're interacting with people, but that's interesting that you said that. But the other thing comes up to me is that like I know people that have not gone home, so they're away, like you were saying, but they're still experiencing the same thing. So it's probably just the lack of people, like interaction with people, and we aren't giving purpose to things. Because I've noticed, like when I've been dressing. This is a very simple thing, but I've been dressing very different than I normally do on a normal whatever. I mean, I like to dress up, right? I just
Yeah.
relatively fancy, and like even right now, I got sweatpants on. And then some days I will decide, like it's not very often, but I'll be like, I'm gonna dress up, like I'm going out, and I do it, and I just feel way better. And you feel like that. It's like you have purpose. It's like something. It's an event, because maybe that's it. We don't have. There's nothing. It's just that lack of anything. I don't know.
Everything's the world that we live in has been changed and shaped and molded to feel like a giant home, but not in the sense where like, okay, everybody get cozy. It's everything is static. Everything is just put on pause. Okay, the lockdowns, like in Ontario here, we've moved back into a modified stage 2, as they've been calling it.
Oh my, they got names for everything now.
So like,
what does that mean? Could you explain? Elaborate.
well, basically, like gyms are closed.
Right.
There are certain places that you just can't go to
Mm-hmm.
anymore, and it's because
restricted
the
again.
numbers, our
Yeah,
numbers have been on the rise. It's just Ontario's in a weird bucket of crap, and that's fine. Like, it is what it is. Well, it's not fine. Wear your masks and be respectful.
There you go.
Yes,
PSA.
PSA, please. But man, it's like, because we've been kind of forced to stay inside, and there's this fear of not wanting to go outside. I think that level of anxiety for everybody has been raised.
Mm-hmm.
And that in turn has also kind of made us all weirdly like indoorsy and
Yeah.
kind of quiet. And that can also affect how we take care of ourselves. Like if all
For sure.
you're told is that you have to stay inside and you have to stay safe, it's less of a I'm going to be empathetic towards myself and more of a, I hope I have everything I need.
But your
I
focus is
hope
elsewhere.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that I don't know who brought it up, but somebody was mentioning it will be interesting to see how young kids that are experiencing, so I'm talking like, I don't know, 6 to 9, maybe, like young kids, right? That are like kids. I have a cousin who's just going into cousin of sorts. I don't know all the different terms. That's just gone into kindergarten this year, right? So this is not a normal year to start school,
At
obviously.
all.
How are they gonna be different than, I say us, as in people that did not have that experience starting off? So like it's different because I have, there's kids that are they've experienced school started like this, and now this year's different. That's a different thing. But starting where this is your base, this is what you're starting with. Will they be different? It's something to think about, because even like it's like, don't hug people, don't give people space, give all these different things that are not like in a kindergarten class, right? We've got a family friend, same thing. She's a kindergarten teacher, or grade 1 or something like that, and it's the same thing. She's got like, how do you trying to get the kids to not touch each other, hug each other, like they're gonna be so isolated from a young age. That's gonna affect them 100%.
Oh, 100%. Like
Oh yeah,
these early years are so crucial to like early childhood development,
yeah.
and there's going to be a severe lack of it.
What I mean, neither of us are experts on any of this, but what do you think it will cause? Like, what's gonna be the challenge that they will have in their adult life, do you think?
I mean, social skills are going to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like when growing up, when you're in kindergarten, the mistakes that you make, the life lessons that you learn are very basic and very simple, but very, very effective.
Mm,
Like don't steal somebody's tricycle because stealing is wrong, and maybe
right.
don't push somebody around because, hands to yourself, be kind. And just that basic interaction of like making mistakes and being a child and playing, like all of that is different because, again, now you have these rules put in place. You don't have that freedom of just being able to run around a playground with your friends. Like, you have to respect a rule. And, like, to tell a child that they can't hug their friend, like, how many kids are going to listen to that? Like, what kindergartner is going to say, okay? Like,
Right.
do they even register what's happening?
But if it's being like ingrained in them, like at least this year, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but
Yeah.
I mean, it will, at least it'll be in the back of the mind. Now, it could have a good effect in some ways where it's like personal space is a thing. They'll be more conscious of it. I don't know. Cleanliness, you might be more conscious of it. But I mean, my first thing is like, yeah, it's the disconnect. Like we've come full circle because you were saying with the freedom, like there's no freedom already off the bat. I mean, there isn't. Anyway, there are rules, but it's like it's so restrictive. And like
It's gonna be a mess.
kids' brains are so all over the place, and like you're giving them up like people can't see what my hands are doing if they're not watching. They're like a tunnel. Like it's like you have to fit
Yeah.
into this. Like this is what you have to do. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I'd be curious to see in a couple years if it did have any effect. I assume, based on my very elementary knowledge, that it would.
It will. It'll definitely be a very social effect.
Yes, but like
And
everybody,
that's true. But like, I
you
mean,
know.
we're so lucky that we actually had the chance to play on a playground and to not have to worry about germs the way that we have to worry about them now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if anything, like the kids that are gonna grow up with, well, the kids growing up in a pandemic are going to be very hyper aware of the fact that like they have to sanitize after,
Anything.
literally anything.
Did you breathe? Yes. Spray yourself with Listerine.
Please, just like take a dunk in a bath of mouthwash.
Oh my.
My goodness. But No, it'll be weird. But I mean, we think it's going to be weird, but maybe for them, it's just going to be normal.
Well, it
Like,
will, though, right? Like, that's the thing. It will be normal, so will it create a new normal? I don't know. There are aspects of it that I think are great. Like, if you go to the grocery store, which I don't do very often. I'm not usually the person that go to the grocery store. But if you do, like, people give you space more than they have normally.
I don't know.
Here they do. Maybe they don't there because we're in a whole different culture over here.
I'm in Brampton. People don't understand space.
But here, like, I've noticed that, like, people do respect it. So I don't know, but it's just interesting if that will, some aspects of it, cleanliness stuff, will people be more aware of it? You know, will restaurants and stuff be more cautious about keeping things clean? Other places,
so.
Who knows? I hope so, because it's good no matter what's happening. Let's just be safe. But I don't know.
It's terrifying. But I mean, at the same time, like, hopefully we can get to a point where explaining to kids that, like, at one point it wasn't always like this, and that hopefully we can get back to
so sad.
But I mean, it is. It's so.
Listen.
I mean,
listen, Johnny. There was a time where we didn't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It did exist.
Oh yeah, it did.
It won't be BC anymore. It'll just be. It could still be BC, but now BC means before COVID.
He's already thought of it, folks. History textbooks, watch out.
That's right. It's gonna be 2043, and the kids are going to be in grade 10 history. Be like, and 4 BC, and they're like, what are you talking about? We're like, 2016. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh, God.
Oh, my. Anyway.
2016 BC. Full circle. Kind of terrifying.
No, it would be 4, wouldn't it? Isn't that how that works? I actually don't know. Isn't it like the reverse? Am I incorrect?
I don't know. I haven't taken history in so long.
Me neither. I just don't know I don't know how that works. But we've gotten all over. We've been all over the place. This is wonderful.
This is how my brain works. 12 tabs open. Not really sure where the music's coming from. Something's frozen. Like,
something's frozen.
Something's frozen.
No, it's good. We covered a lot of stuff. That's wonderful.
We did.
Why don't we officially wrap it up there then?
Sounds good.
And everybody listening, wear a mask.
Please wear a mask.
And anything you want to say to the people, Naina, while you have the chance?
Well, this is very exciting. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've quote unquote made during the pandemic, because nobody knows what's happening. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the next few years. And as terrifying as it is, it's okay, because you're not alone in the fact that you have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
So
we'll end it with my new favorite quote, which I've already said, I think, twice on this. And that's that everybody is learning to live for the first time. We'll see you next week. If you're interested in more content like this, go check out our website at don'tsettleofficial.ca. We're dedicated to providing resources, information, and content designed to assist you on your journey of personal growth, and most of all, to help you live life to the fullest. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll chat with you next time.